Usual, the Minister is joined by Mr. Begin Umalo from Eskom's Generation, as well as Ms. Daphne Mukwen. I will not waste any more time, and I will invite the Minister to the podium to commence with the briefing. Before doing so, I'll just also urge members of the media who are following us virtually to participate by sending their questions as per usual to the GCIS Media Updates WhatsApp group. Thank you. Minister.
Thank you very much, Tsakani, and good morning to members of the media, and also to extend my warm and sincere greetings to the viewers back at home. Just also to extend my appreciation once more at members of the media for making it possible for us to be able to communicate to the broader South African population, the households, major industries, businesses, and all interest groups, the performance against the Energy Action Plan that was unveiled by President Ramokgopa in July of 2022, whose primary aim is to ensure that we are able to liquidate load shedding over a period of time. And just to also add on Tsakani, just to wish everyone a blessed festive season. So this is a media update that happens in the middle of December. And for us, this is a normal period because unlike many other people in the South African economy, we are still seized with the responsibility of ensuring that we keep the lights on. And we also use this period to do what we call opportunity maintenance, given the fact that some of your large, your energy-intensive users will have taken a break, and therefore demand would have tapered down significantly. So we use this opportunity to do the actual work of ensuring that we are very aggressive in our maintenance program. So that we are able to, so that there's a full appreciation of the Energy Action Plan and the performance against that Energy Action Plan. Is that we mean improving is to ensure that the rate of failure of these units is attended to, so the units become more reliable units. So even if when they are on load, we are able to ensure that the degree to which they are producing these megawatts approximate their design capacity, so that we are able to get the full benefit of these units. Because the units being on load is one issue, the units performing at the levels that they are desired is a second consideration. So those are the two aspects that we are dealing with. And of course, during this period, we have seen an exceptionally good performance by these units. So outside the issues of reduced demand, we have seen that what we call the unplanned capacity loss factor. So it's a combination of the units being unreliable and the units not performing at the right levels, and that's what we refer to as the partial load losses. So the unit is on load, the car is moving, but it's not attaining the maximum speed that is designed for, that is capable of achieving. That then undermines, if you like, the performance of these units. And what we have seen during this period of December is that the system has been healthy. Now, the problem we have is that the system is healthy in periods. So what we want to achieve is to ensure that we maintain that consistency, that the system remains healthy. And when we articulate around the energy outlook, and of course by extension talking to the issues of load shedding, our message is credible. So I want to focus on that first outcome, and then I'll go to the other outcomes in a methodical fashion, so that there's an appreciation of the work that we are doing. So on the issues around the performance of this unit. So if you look at the period from the week from the 11th of December and the week up to the 21st of December. So we are measuring, if you like, what we call capacity available. So capacity available simply means that this is what the units are generating, having taken into account the amount of failures and also the planned maintenance. The planned maintenance simply means that out of our own volition, we have taken out the units, we are going to fix them. So these units are not failing on their own. It's us taking them out to fix them. So once we have accounted for that, we have accounted for the partial load losses, then you are able to compute, arrive at what we call the capacity available. So let me share with you what those key dimensions are. So the first one is on the unplanned capacity loss factor. Again, just to repeat myself, when I talk about the unplanned capacity loss factor, I'm talking about the unreliability of the units. I'm talking about the units not reaching, if you like, their optimal performance, their design capacity, what we refer to as the partial load losses. So the intention is to bring those down, so we undermine the rate of failure of these units. We are able to bolster the performance of these units, and therefore you are able to get more megawatts on the grid to service what is the demand. The higher the number, the greater the crisis that is facing us. So it simply means that the system is unhealthy. What are the numbers that we have been experiencing over the past 14 days? So essentially the average is about 12,245 megawatts. So it means that over that period, there's 12,245 megawatts of units that have either failed or they are not giving us the amount of megawatts that we want, and therefore we're losing those 12,000 megawatts on the capacity available. But it's important that we are able to juxtapose this with what has been the trend, because a number can be a number, it must be relative to something. When you look at our winter outlook, when we did the projections, when we came and generated the scenarios, the worst case scenarios during our winter period was saying that this number, if it hits 18,000 megawatts plus, we're going to hit levels of load shedding that have not been seen before. I mean, going beyond stage 6. So that's what we had said. And then if you go to what has been the actual performance during that winter period, you're going to find that this number was averaging about 15,500 megawatts. So that's the actual, this is what the scenarios were projected. So now I'm standing before you and I'm saying that number is at 12,200 megawatts. So the system is better off, is healthier by about 3,000 megawatts. So that's the performance of the system, before I get to account on the issues on the demand side. So I think it's important that we have that appreciation. And it's particularly telling that on the 18th of December, for the first time in a long time, the amount of losses have gone below 11,000 megawatts. And thanks to Mr. Ngumalo and the exceptional team of engineers at the various power stations, they've illustrated to us that it is possible for us to come under 11,000 megawatts, although we didn't sustain it. And that's the point I'm making. The point is to sustain it, so you don't want to do that on just moments, but you want to be consistent in that. But this is a psychological barrier. We have gone below 11,000 megawatts, so we are confident about our ability to get to that level. So the point is to ensure that we are able to sustain it. So the message I'm conveying to the country is that the system is healthier. If you use that measure of the rate of failure and the partial load losses, which is an important dimension of the work that we are doing. And then the other area of interest is that it is important that during this period of low demand, that we are able to take this opportunity to ensure that we accelerate maintenance. So what has been our experience? Our experience is that when the units have gone out on planned maintenance, when they return on average, they continue to perform, they remain on load. So it simply means that the maintenance regime and the discipline that has been introduced by Mr. Ngumalo and the team is beginning to yield fruit. So we are going to benefit exceptionally well as a country for us to continue on this path of planned maintenance. But planned maintenance has got its own downside. So when you do planned maintenance, it simply means that I'm removing the units of the grid, so I'm lessening my ability to generate the megawatts. And that's why we have used a combination of what has been low demand and the healthy performance of these units during this period to do not only planned maintenance but opportunity maintenance. I mean, just to give you a sense, I was at Duva power station last week. For the first time since I visited these power stations, and I'm very familiar with the power stations. You know, I've been to some power stations, I've been 4 times. The least I've been to a power station would have been 2 times. So I now fully understand, if you like, the intricacies, the engineering intricacies of how these units are performing. For the first time since I was appointed, when I was at Duva, the general manager at Duva received a message from the system controller to say that we have too much energy on the grid. Take out the unit and fix it. That's what we call opportunity maintenance. So they were planning to fix it sometime in the future. They know what the problem is that needs to be fixed, remove and fix because of opportunity maintenance. And during that period, we're not burning diesel. So we're not sitting under the cover our performance with regards to planned maintenance. Again, planned maintenance is averaging about 7,800 megawatts. Again, on the 18th of December, this planned maintenance was at 18,000 megawatts. So we took out of our own volition 8,000 megawatts during that period. Of course, some of it had been out for some period. So accumulatively, on the day, we reached about 18,100 megawatts. And part of that is about that opportunity maintenance I spoke about. Let me put that into context. A number is just a number, so that you get to understand it. When we went through winter period and we did those scenarios, part of scenario generation was that to avert a worst case scenario, we need to reduce, tone down significantly on planned maintenance so that we get the benefit of sweating these assets. They must continue to produce the megawatts because demand was exceptionally high, and you know we reached about 33,900 megawatts. Planned maintenance at that period averaged about 2,500 megawatts. Today, planned maintenance is about 8,000 megawatts, or averaging 7,800 megawatts. So essentially, we've taken out an additional 5,300 megawatts to fix it. So it's important that there's that appreciation, that even if when we don't see load shedding, we don't celebrate ourselves, those who sustain it, but we are using that opportunity for us to ensure that during difficult days, those days will come. These units must come back and continue to perform. So those are the 2 measures that are important. And having taken all of that into account, the unplanned capacity loss factor, we have removed 12,200 megawatts, and then you add this 7,800 megawatts, we have removed 20,000 megawatts, if you like, cumulatively. So the available generation capacity is sitting at 27,700 megawatts. And then the demand is averaging about 24,695 megawatts, and that's why you are not seeing load shedding. We are not seeing load shedding, we are working behind the scenes, we are aggressive on the maintenance, the system is performing, but the point I want to make is the consistency. Because time and time again, I come before the nation and I say there's been a cluster of units that have failed. That's something that we want to avert. And of course, I can't guarantee that that won't happen. I think it's important that I make that statement. But the outlook really, in the short term, when I say short term, between now and the next 2, on the other side of the break, when the big industries are coming back, it's about sustaining the South Africa, a temporary break. You want to have a situation of no load shedding at the height, at the peak of the performance of the South African economy. That's when we have a great appreciation of the work that we are doing. But every significant, every victory that we are registering, I think for us, it bolsters our work. It really makes sure that the mood is buoyant about our prospects to address this situation going into the future. And of course, we've done a computation around what has been the performance relative, the December performance of 2024 versus the December performance of 2023. And from no load shedding, I think the performance is much better. And then part of fixing XCOM, and fixing XCOM really means about ensuring that we improve the performance of these units. So you apply a degree of science. I mean, there's 14 of these power stations, over 80 of these generation units. So it will be a height of folly to suggest that you are going to fix all of them at the same time. So there has to be a method on how you are going to intervene and ensure that you are able to improve the performance in the shortest possible space of time. So what we then did was to identify what we call 6 power stations that gives us the best possibility of improving this generation performance, the aggregate generation performance. Those of you who have studied science, there's something we call the Pareto principle. So it's 20% effort, 80% return. So we asked ourselves our question, make a meaningful impact on these 6 power stations. Everyone in the country is going to see that we are lifting the performance, is going to bolster the aggregate performance of Eskom, if you like, the entire fleet. So what are these power stations? Is Majuba. So we said, let's go to Majuba and make this intervention. And of course, we see that Majuba, over a period, we have been able to sustain that performance of the EAF is still at about 62% EAF. We really want to improve it. So that has been the work to be able to realize. And some of this planned maintenance is sitting in these power stations. That's why we have taken out the units. We want to fix them. That's what accounts for that 8,000 megawatts. And we are confident that when these units return, everyone is going to have a full appreciation of the work that we are doing. Because our work really is very easy to measure. It's the number of hours that your lights are either on and off. Then you know the performance of the system. You don't have to be an engineer to do that. And then the second one is Kusile. You know, of the reasons that are well documented, I've explained to that ad nauseum. They had to do with the issues related to the flue gas desulfurization units, the fact that compromising the structural integrity of the chimney as a result of the slurry that was deposited there. And then we had to take out those units. So we lost the ability to generate, if you like, 2,400 megawatts because each unit packs 800 megawatts. 8 times 3 is 2,400 megawatts. We didn't have that. And thanks to the work that the generation team has done, came with an engineer solution, and of course we needed the approval of the authorities from an environmental point of view to bypass the original design to do the temporary stacks so that we can retain these 2,400 megawatts. These 2,400 megawatts are now back, and that's why you can see that we have improved Kusile from what was about 15% EAF, and now we're sitting at about 70% EAF. Exceptional improvement, and that gets to be accounted for in the improvement that we're seeing. And of course, we are still on track towards the end of the year, early January, for us to be able to fire Unit 5 of Kusile. And that's kudos to the work that Mr. Numalo and the team has done. And then there's Duva. Duva was one of the shining lights during our winter period. I had visited Duva there, first to thank the management team, to thank the unions, to thank the men and women at Duva Power Station for making sure that this station performs. It was one of our best performing power stations during winter, and that's why we didn't see elevated levels of load shedding. And as Mr. Numalo was saying, tongue-in-cheek, they have plummeted. It has come down from a high of what used to about 65%. It's at 46%. When I was there, they had picked it up to 54%. You remember here I'm reporting year to date. So it's important that they continue to lift this. They've identified what the issues were. They had lost 2 units. Those units are coming back. And then I think what Duva is doing, and this is the story on focusing our attention on the rear view mirror. We learn from what we had experience in the past, but the focus is about the future. So you can see, I mean, I've been out for a long period of time. We're taking a view of whether to retain it or not, but that's the head of generation makes that determination. And of course, at some point, we have retained about 3 of these units. And of course, we have tapered down in terms of our performance. And of course, what is accounted in that 8,000 megawatts, these units have been taken out for fixing. And at Tutuka, because of the exceptional circumstances of Tutuka, the head of generation at ESCOM, Mr. Ngumalo, has assigned one of the most decorated, experienced general managers, Bruce, to be able to run that effort together with his recovery team. They are there, if you like, in rugby terms, this is what you'll call the bomb squad. They go in there, make the kind of improvement that is required. Given the kind of complexities and the depth of the problem, is going to take them time. So Tutuka, once it come back, I think the whole country will be able to have that appreciation that Tutuka is back, and we're able to ensure that we stave off the worst case scenario when we get to situation where demand will have spiked, and I'm talking about the next winter. And then the next power station is Kendall. So Kendall there, so it's important that we're able to address the issues of emissions. So you can't be reckless. You can't just say that because load shedding causes exceptional harm to the South African economy, let's run these machines recklessly. When you run them, you exceed your emissions level. You are at risk. We have a responsibility to remain within the permitted, the license parameters, and that's why the machines are brought down. So essentially, they are not run to their full capacity, so that we respect what the requirements are from an emissions perspective. Mr. Ngumalo and the team, the Kovas, they are working on this to ensure that we are able to get the benefit of these machines, ensure that they approximate their design capacity. At the same time, we protect the health of the people in that area. So here it's an emissions issue. We are familiar with that emission issue. We'll attend to it. And Mark has shown consistent improvement. Consistent improvement, we moved from about 45%, now we're sitting at 73%. It continues to go high, thanks to the team that is doing the work there. So the point I'm trying to make is that we have isolated these power stations because of the capacity of the power stations, one, because of the levels of the EAF, their performance levels, and we have accepted that once we make an improvement, a 1%, 2%, 5% improvement is significant in the totality of what we are able to generate, and that's why we isolated these power stations. And we're making the kind of improvements that we're making, and in other areas there are setbacks, and I've shared with you what we are doing to ensure that we address those setbacks, and we are able to get everything up and running. And like I said, I mean, because we are at the end of the calendar year, I think it's important that from a point of view of fixing ESCOM, there has to be a full appreciation, a full account, if you like, a balance sheet of what has been our experiences. There has been low lights, moments not to celebrate. So essentially is that the EAF year to date is about 55.4%. That's the EAF against what was a target of about 60%. But it's important that there's a context to that. That for the majority of this year, the calendar year, you didn't have the 2,400 megawatts from the 3 units at Kusile, and you didn't have the 980 megawatts from Unit 1 at Kubek. So if you compare December of this year, December of last year, where we wanted to be, of course, you can see that we're at 55.4%, and of course, we want to ramp it up to 60%. Of course, we have not reached that target. Our intention is to reach that target. And now that the units have returned, and that the system is becoming healthier, the cumulative year-to-date performance when we get to March of next year, I'm sure it will be significantly better than the 55%. Will be closer to the 60% mark, and will continue to improve. But it's important that we were able to address this. And then, of course, the unreliability of the fleet continues to be the albatross. The point I'm making. So now I'm saying that exceptional and healthy performance, and then a day later, few hours later, you have a cluster of units failing. It just undermines the credibility of our messaging, but also our ability to plan as Eskom, but also as the economy. So it's important that you are able to improve on the reliability of this unit, and that's why planned maintenance is important. That's why we are so aggressive in that planned maintenance. And of course, I did lament the fact that we're 6 months late in retaining, 5 months late in retaining Unit 1 of Kusile. I mean, that has not covered us in glory. If anything, undermines our ability to plan, and thanks to the head of generation, now we have gone to the root causes of what was the reason why there's been what we call outage sleep. Simply means that you have failed to meet your commitment to retain the unit on this day, and in this instance, Unit 1, it was delayed by 4 months. That's unacceptable, and we don't anticipate that to be happening now on Unit 2. We'll take those lessons, export them into Unit 2, and ensure that we address that situation. And now we have a general manager there at Unit 2 who's going to now spearhead this effort. The country can't rely on maintaining the lights on by continuing to burn diesel. It's the most expensive fuel source. It's unsustainable. It's expensive to the fiscus. Although it affects the intensity of load shedding, it just can't be explained. And we have seen, we have really burned this diesel when we went into the winter period, and parts of when we came out of the winter period. And I'm happy that because of the performance of these units, we are barely burning diesel. Even the morning and evening peak, if we do, it will be 1 unit, 2 units out of the 11 or so that are in our fleet. So it's important that we are able to address this situation. You can't be going, because someone must pay for it. And that will be find expression in the tariff dispensation. The South African household and economy business can't afford tariffs that increase exponentially. It's unsustainable. The cost of doing business just increases. We are becoming uncompetitive as a result of banning this diesel. But of course, we had a reason. And this reason was that these units were at a stage where their performance was gravely underperforming. So it was important that we find a short-term measure to ensure that we avert higher levels of load shedding and the intensification of load shedding, because the implications of that, and the assurance I'm giving you is that when you have seen the lights being on, I've just explained, very little diesel has been burned. Is the machine sustaining themselves? And then the highlights, the return of these 3 Kusile units are very important. Of course, Kubek, ultimately Unit 1 has returned, Unit 2 has gone out. I think it's important. And then don't understate and underestimate the fact that we delayed the decommissioning. So in that expression, you accept that there's going to be decommissioning. But you had to delay it, and part of the reason why we have not burned diesel even at the higher levels of intensity, part of the reason why you have been able to escape winter without necessarily going to higher levels of intensity, part of the reason why the lights are on, they will remain on going into the near future, is because of these units that were meant to be taken out. These units continue to perform. Camden, Hendrina, they continue to perform as a result of their delayed decommissioning. We accept that they will be decommissioned because of our commitment to the nationally determined contributions, the net zero path, but they are playing a significant role in ensuring that they contribute in the totality of the mix of the generation capacity that we are having here at the Eskom. And then it's helping this situation. And of course, there are power stations that are doing exceptionally well. The peaking plants, really less emphasis on them. You really want the units to sustain themselves on their own. But still, I mean, the fact that the performance has been at about 80%. Look at this Camden, the one that we wanted to decommission, of course, 61% performance. I mean, in the context of a power station that is aging, some of the units are out. So it's important that we have this appreciation. You don't expect anything less from Medupi. It's our newest power station. If you had to ask me, should do even much better than this. Part of the problem is that, you know, there's Unit 4 that is out. We are performing at 80%. And then there's Letabo. Letabo won. I went to the awards in the generation side. It won the best performing power stations of all power stations in the family of Eskom. And thanks to the work that Karawo is doing, the general manager there is performing at 76%. So it's important that we have that appreciation. And like I said, the two stations that have been by November performing at 80% plus. Now Medupi is doing exceptionally well. And of course, we are seeing that trajectory of improvement. I've shared with you the work we are doing at Duva, the work we are doing at Matla, the work that we are doing at Kendall, the work we are doing at Tutuka. The aggregate is that the trend line is positive. So we measure the trend line over a passage of time, just a longitudinal assessment. So it's not instantaneous, if you like. It's not a cross-sectional study of how these units are performing. And that's why, although we reached a low of less than 11,000 megawatts of losses, we don't celebrate that. We on the 18th, we celebrated that. It simply shows that it can be achieved. What we celebrate is whether we are able to sustain it. And I want to make the point that, of course, the trend line is looking positive. Of course, with the stakes, temporary stakes at Kusile, we are still exemptions. On other parameters, particulate matter and the likes, we are keeping within the parameters. Where there is a misstep is with regards to the sulfur content, and we ask for permission, and that's why we're accelerating the return to normality there at Kusile. And then the standard offer program, of course, has gone out with regards to 1,036 megawatts, is in the contracting phase. Got an update yesterday from the colleagues at Eskom working on this. I'm quite confident that they are going to get to close of that. So there has been exceptional interest. So the standard offer program is being unleashed. And of course, there's also the emergency generation program has added 60 megawatts onto the grid. So every megawatt counts. That's what the team knows. We are searching for megawatt, 2 megawatts, 3 megawatts, 5 megawatts. When you put them together, they are going to save you one stage of load shedding. And of course, part of the highlights on the generation side is the issues around, of course, rather on the demand side. You know, part of the interventions we are making is to work with households, with industries, to ensure that we reduce demand without interrupting and undermining your ability to meet your everyday needs, for industries not to become less competitive as a result of demand-side interventions. We have seen that there's a significant uptake. We are working on the virtual wheeling solutions. Eskom, together with Vodacom, they've done a pilot, gave us the feedback in relation to the pilot, significant prospects there. And once it gets to become universal, open to everyone, you will see that we are going to take full advantage of this opportunity. And then the second part of the outlook, the outcome of the EAF, of the Energy Action Plan, was that we must accelerate the procurement with regards to the bid windows. One of the issues, we were meant to go bid windows number 7 about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It's finally out, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen that. It's important that you understand the timelines, that although you've gone out on a transparent, competitive procurement process of additional renewable energy generation capacity, in this instance, we're talking 5,000 megawatts made up of 3,200 megawatts of wind and 1,800 megawatts of PV. Although we have gone out to market just the other day, it doesn't mean that we are going to get these megawatts onto the grid anytime soon. We are going to get these megawatts by 2027. There has to be that appreciation. And that's why the story of Camden, the delayed decommissioning. It's important because you are accounting for the fact that to get to financial close, construction, and get these megawatts onto the grid, it takes you that amount of time. And what is this period? So the anticipation is that by April of next year, the bid is going to close. So people, when they come back, others who are more serious have been working, will be working during the festive season to respond to the request for proposals. We'll only get to the state of the preferred bidder status by end of July next year. You are going to get to commercial close by January of 2025. The expected financial close is about February of 2025. You get to construction 2 years later. That's when you get this megawatt. So that's not the panacea of resolving an urgent and immediate problem. It's a solution on ensuring energy security and the mix in the South African energy calculus. So it's important that we have that appreciation. So outcome number 3, you can see now we have gone out on that procurement process. Again, on outcome number 5, in relation to the reforms, I'm sure you know, for the record, the transmission company, National Transmission Company of South Africa, got those 3 licenses: transmission, import, export, and trading. The board is being put in place, so we're marching on. And then we are addressing the issues on the transmission side. On the financing, I did come back to you to say that it's important that gets urgent attention, and that 1 or 2 issues Cabinet says we must fix, we'll go back. I'm confident that we should be in a position to be able to go onto the market. Outcome number 4 was about accelerating the rollout of PV by both households and industry. You know that between July of last year and this year, we have increased that by 2,000 megawatts plus, almost grew 100%. From 2,000 megawatts the last year to 4,400 megawatts this year. So there's exceptional and insatiable appetite by both industry and household to go that route, of course supported by National Treasury incentives. There's a conversation we think ought to be had, the extension of those incentives to be multi-year, the expansion of the scope of those incentives to possibly include inverters and batteries, because those are the biggest cost component. And I think if we're to address that, there's going to be an accelerated uptake, in fact, significantly bigger than what we have experienced, and we can rival what Vietnam had experienced over a period of 12 months. They were able to add 8,000 megawatts on the grid as a result of the type of incentives that we're envisaging going into the future. And the last one is around outcome number 2, ensuring that there's greater levels of participation by private sector. You know, we've removed the licensing requirement on the embedded, on the generation side. You don't have to be licensed by NERSA. You simply get to notify NERSA about your actions. And then we've seen that the work that has been done by Eskom and the South African Wind Energy Association suggests that there's about 66 gigawatts of renewable energy project at various stages of the project life cycle. What that communicates is that insatiable appetite I'm talking about. It communicates the power of the reforms, that they've got the desired effect. It doesn't follow that all of it will come to financial close, but it's important that we have that appreciation. The resolution on the transmission is going to help the onboarding of renewables, the issues around the licensing, permitting, the regulatory issues from the EIA water use license. You know that we've introduced interventions that truncates that period, and once you get the status of a SIP, a strategic integrated project, we are able to truncate that. You are able to get your answers within 59 days, and that has demonstrated that, of course, there's this amount of appetite that is in the private sector. So what is the net result I'm making? Is that the trend line is positive. That you can see that that future is bright, is not an oncoming train. And I've said with you what the numbers look like. We still know that the units remain unreliable. We have gone aggressive on the maintenance. We know that momentarily over the past 14 days, if we had to do a cross-sectional study, that the performance has not been surpassed, at least in the past year or two. Exceptional performance, but it's not about momentary performance, it's about consistent performance, and that's what we want to engender. We have prioritized these power stations, and we are seeing the result, and I'm confident that we'll have our festives with the lights on, not the candles. The candle lights will be there, not necessarily to perform the primary function of lighting, but just celebratory, and we'll have the proper lights to make sure that we usher in 2024 and will continue to improve. Thanks, Tutuka.
Minister Ramokgopa, thank you very much. We will now take questions from members of the media. We can start with those who are joining us. We'll start with questions that are in the room, and then we will go to Takalani and Batabile for questions that have been sent online. Are there any questions?
Yes, there are questions.
Are there any questions in the room? By a show of hands, please introduce your name and your media house.
Good morning, Bumelelo from SABC. Minister, I just wanted to know, with the current reprieve that we're experiencing now, do you by any chance know when we'll have load shedding again, or when it will start rearing its ugly head? Thank you.
We'll then go to Batabile for questions shared on the WhatsApp group.
Okay, we have 6 questions. The first 4 are from Helmut from Independent Media. When will Eskom change the unplanned outage assumption from 16,000 megawatts to 14,000 megawatts? The second question is, when was the last time Eskom achieved a planned outage? When will we get imports above 1,000 megawatts, as we have gone from 954 megawatts in August to 808 megawatts in September to only 786 megawatts in October? The last question from Helmut is, what is the split between road and rail for coal deliveries at Majuba?
Thank you, Batabile. Before we proceed to other questions, can you please repeat question 2, 3, and 3 for us, please, which are from Helmo?
Okay. Question 2 is, when was the last time Eskom achieved a planned outage factor of 17.81%?
Okay.
And question number 3 is, when will we get imports above 1,000 megawatts, as we have gone from 954 megawatts in August to 808 megawatts in September?
Do we have any more questions online?
Yes, we do. We have 2 more from Ndando from Bloomberg. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Are you on a track to meet your March energy goal? What would make Eskom not meet that goal, and what would make things easier? The second one from Ndando is, how much less diesel is being burned compared to last year this time?
Thank you very much, Matabile. Are there no more questions?
No.
Okay, and no more questions in the room as well.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Minister and the members of the media and the public. Yeah, I think the question that I would talk to is with regard to say, when will the load shedding start again? I think ours is really not to start load shedding. It is for us to continuously deal with the unreliability of the system, and then load shedding, it get implemented as a result of some shortages for the system operator independently looking at the system. So we will all want the publics and the economy to continue enjoying this no load shedding as far as possible, but whenever the situation comes, it will come. And then the other question that came was with regard to the planned, what has happened between last year and this year in terms of the plan and unplanned. And also with the diesel usage. If you recall, last year, this time around, we were hovering around stage 5, stage 6. So inherently, it means then the diesel will be higher. So the minister has indicated that if you look at the past week or early this week, we have most of the time, even during the peak hours in the evening, we haven't burned any diesel at all. So this year is quite less than what we were in December. Hence, we have shown that peak. I think it's mostly to do with Kusile, and I must, Minister, just emphasize that you know, with Medupi having some unit on outages, Kusile has emerged as the top performer in the past. Since the beginning of this month, consistently operating around 90% availability. And we are quite pleased with that performance from Kusile. And then there was a question about Matimba's import. But Matimba, we do not have any, in terms of the coal, I presume. Matimba is a dedicated mine, is fully supplied from one supplier of mine. Yeah, I think those are the issues, Minister. Or the issue about being on track for the March commitment, I think all the plans we are working towards that. The only things that we will also might be us, we also look at opportunity to mitigate for the risk in what we call the short-term maintenance. But all our plans are geared towards achieving that March performance. As you would see that the performance, if you look at day on day this month already, there were days where we went over 21% on the plant as well because of trying to manage the risk onto the system. So we are working towards achieving that goal of March 2024. Yeah, thanks, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngomalo. Mr. Ngomalo has covered all of the questions that have been asked in our first round. We'll go to our second and last round of questions. Again, we'll start with any follow-up questions in the room, and then we'll go to Batabile again for questions that have been shared on the WhatsApp group. Do you have follow-up questions in the room? Batabile, can you take us through the questions sent on WhatsApp?
Okay, we have two more questions from Denise representing Business Day. What is the average length of the planned maintenance outages that are being carried out, and by when will the maintenance backlog be resolved to enable Eskom to start scaling back on maintenance? Another question is, sorry if I missed this, but can we get an update on Kusile Unit 5?
Thank you very much, Batabile. So that marks our last round of questions. So just to repeat that question, you said it's from Denine Erasmus, Business Day. She's asking what is the average length of planned maintenance outages that are being carried out and by when will the maintenance backlog be resolved to enable Eskom to start scaling back on maintenance? So we'll start again there with Mr. Ngomalo, and then we'll give Minister Ramokgopa an opportunity to just close the media briefing. Thanks.
Thank you, Tsakani. I think maybe let me the issue of maintenance, how it's done on the system, because it's not that there will be a point where we're saying now maintenance stop. You know, the system maintenance is done based on what we call life of plant plan. So if the plant is 50 years, you know, so it means so long as this plant is running, we do different maintenance at different intervals. First of the plan is what we call the general overhauls, which are normally determined by our turbines plant. It normally will happen on our bigger plants. Every 12 years you open that, and then every 6th year we have got many overhauls and then shorter inspections in between. So long as the plant is running, every year there will be levels of maintenance that need to be done. Obviously, as the fleet ages, what you do then, you go through, like what we are going through now at Quebec with an extension, it becomes an abnormal maintenance with a major capex. But it's no longer a normal maintenance there. You are reinvesting for the life of the extension of that. So then, but once that is done, then Quebec will go back to the normal cycles of maintenance. So maybe the backlog that you might be referring to is the issue of saying maybe there are some stations where we didn't do the upgrades on the control systems and all of those things. So as we are going through this mid-life refurbishment of the station, then we are going through those phases. So it's a continuous because as you do it, you also need to balance it with the system. You can't take all the units at once, but we have dealt with most of the legacy issues that you will refer that maintenance was sort of a problem, except for the major controls upgrade, which we are starting now as well on some of our stations, the Matimbas, Letabos, and Majubas, and some of the stations we are also continuously doing that. So there's those type of maintenance that we are doing, normal, a general overall cycle, and then we come in when the plant is only a midly, and then we do what is called then life extensions and then refurbishments as well. Kusile, Minister did touch on it, Kusile 5, that we are currently busy with commissioning. So we have done most of the commission now. We are planning to start synchronizing that machine towards the end of this month, early next year. So our teams are working throughout this festive season there to try. Obviously, it's a new machine, so there's a lot of things that we also taken as the lessons from the other units that we have encouraged the team that even now during the tough period, they must make sure whatever we do the correct things, because to try and shorten times and then we make major mistakes is not going to be acceptable. We rather be a day or 2 days later, but do the proper work and make sure the machine is commissioned correctly. Thank you, Minister.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Numa. I mean, just on that score, I just want to make the point that is less appreciated. So as many people will be enjoying this festive season with their families, rightly so, because of, I mean, it's deserved, a difficult year, some in a celebratory mood. The men and women at ESCOM will be working very hard to ensure that we are able to address this existential question. And I really want to say to Mr. Ngumalo publicly, I've raised this on multiple occasions. We really want to say thank you to you and the team. And of course, we are with you in solidarity in person. We'll be with you in the trenches to ensure that we get to fix this ESCOM as part of outcome number 1. And I also want to make the point that we've been hard at work, so we are at an advanced stage of making those new determinations to help us in the short term to make an intervention that will be impactful. There is so much that Mr. Ngumalo and the team can do to exploit these units, to sweat them. Without additional generation capacity, there's no way that you'll be able to avert a situation where demand exceeds generation. And that's why we need to go that route. And part of the reason why it takes that amount of time is that we have to be deliberate. We have to identify the source. We have to have an appreciation of how long it will take for us to make that intervention. And we have reached that stage where we are confident about these solutions that they were propagating, that they are going to help us to resolve this situation going into the future. And of course, we have had an update from our colleagues at ESCOM with regards to the situation on the imports. So I'm really alive to what the issues that are attended there that undermined our ability to be able to import in the shortest possible space of time. And those issues will receive attention. But the standard offer program, that 1,030 megawatts plus, is going to help us to ensure that we have that additional capacity in the short term. And the team is working on the demand side. And I'm more than confident that if we're to sustain this trend line, add new generation capacity, we are much closer to the solution that we think we are. Of course, the past, about 3-5 weeks ago, the situation looked dire, but we had an appreciation from where we are seated that the trend line still is looking up. There were those occasional failures. It's an inherent risk of any engineering unit, but I think that the momentum is such that it is positive. So I really want to take this opportunity once more to thank members of the media and to wish everyone a peaceful, happy, joyous festive season. And we hope to meet the other side of 2023, which is 2024. May God bless you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Minister. This brings us to the end of this media briefing, which is the last media briefing for this year. Should there be any urgent developments that the Minister would like to communicate, we will advise. Thank you very much once again.